Hello, Doug here from the Hundredfold Journey. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday Night Live, where you get the opportunity to meet our leadership team and ask any questions that you might have. The Hundredfold Journey is about a group of people who are looking to find their true identity, and by doing so, finding God's true identity. The Hundredfold is all about coming alongside of you on your journey. We provide resources and tools for you to grow and expand spiritually. And it could be by way of a Bible study, which I conduct on Sunday mornings called Sundays with Doug, or it could be on our challenges. We've got the 21 days of gratitude, 21 days of identity. We also have a 28-day challenge, love challenge, that is on our Facebook. And that is where every day we um, challenge you to find ways to love yourself, because we're trying to fill you up through this month of February, the month of love, so that you can be an extension of that love to other people, because you can't give what you don't have.
Amen.
So tonight we're going to be talking about the power of your subconscious mind. Now, last week we started with part one, and tonight is part two, and we'll talk about some of uh, the aspects of the subconscious mind, why we have the patterns of thoughts that we have, why we have the beliefs that we have. And we were thinking that we were able to wrap this up in 2 nights, but we're finding that there's a lot more material out there and a lot more that we need to learn and develop, and also put it in a format that we can share with you. So be looking for in the future for part three, maybe even a part four. And by the way, last week, I'm going to go ahead and put the link down below, and I'd recommend watching that first and then watching this tonight. So again, last week we discussed the differences between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And what we found is Proverbs 23:7 says, as a man thinks, so he is. And we talked about the way we think determines the quality of our life. So we need to see these beliefs for what they are and what we're up against, because these are beliefs that have been programmed way back in our childhood and through different experiences. And Rich is going to cover a lot of that tonight. Also, the material that we're going to be sharing with you is a summary of basically 2 years of life experience and teachings from various industry leaders. Industry leaders such as Dr. Bruce Lipton, Dr. Joe Dispenza, and Dr. Joseph Murphy, who actually wrote the book, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, just to name a few of the people that we've been watching and following and learning from. As a Christian, this subject has revealed more to me about God and his interaction with me than anything else. It explains the workings of the Holy Spirit in our lives and the role that I play and the power which God has given to me. So this is why this is so powerful. It's life-changing, as it has been for me, as well as Rich. So this is not anything mystical, but it takes us down to the core of who we are and why we are the way we are and our true identity. So it was interesting. Tonight, my daughter had difficulty with her Nintendo Switch. She couldn't get it to turn on, and she found out that she needed to hit the reset button for 12 seconds in order to get it to start again and basically reboot the system. That's what we're here to share with you tonight, is how to reboot your system to its original design, the design that God created you to be, which is perfect union, being one with him living his life in us, through us, as us, because we are the dwelling place of God. So we need to do the reset button, because a lot of us don't believe that. And the question is why don't we believe that? Why don't we accept that? Well, a lot of it is because of what we've learned, and a lot of it is because that God spark, which is located in the subconscious mind, has been pressed down and quieted down. So we can't hear that inner voice because it's been muffled. That spark is still there. We're going to try to ignite that spark with you tonight, and share what that voice is telling us and why those boundaries have been put in place through wrong beliefs. So the good news is that that spark is there. The good news is that you wouldn't be watching or listening or being led to this discussion tonight if it wasn't for you thinking that
That's right.
there's got to be more to life than just this. So welcome to our breakdown of the subconscious mind and how we can free you in doing that. Now, Rich, who is sharing the material with us, is one of our 100-fold leader, and he has spent, I dare to say, hundreds of hours reading and listening to the science behind the subconscious mind, and has applied these to his life and is applying them to his life because it's an ongoing cycle, right? We're never there, but we're there, but we just don't know it yet. And that's what we'll talk about, is we have that spark and it's constantly talking to us, and how do we listen to that? So anyways, with that said, Rich, thank you for putting this material together, and thanks for speaking on this subject tonight. And I hand this over to you, and I know you have a presentation for us as well, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, very
so let
good.
me see if I can get this done. I'm going to stop my video. I'm going to share the screen. And let's see if I can. Okay, can you see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So tonight we're not actually going to talk about how to hit that reset button on the Nintendo Switch. Right. Tonight we're going to talk about what is the system and what is the role of that system, and basically how did we get that system. And then in another time we'll talk about how do we hit the reset button, how do we change the beliefs. So tonight I want to recap for just a few minutes what we talked about last week with the power of the subconscious mind and what it is. Then we're going to talk about the beliefs, what are the role of our beliefs, and let's take just a little bit of a look at how we got our beliefs, right? Once we become aware of these beliefs, it's really important to understand how they got there in the first place. And then, again, as I said, in another session, we'll talk about how to change those beliefs that don't serve us. Okay, so let me recap the subconscious mind. So the conscious mind, that conscious mind is the part of us that we engage when we're awake. Right? It's the smallest part. It's the part that shows above the water there, that 10%. And it's really closer to a 95 and 5% in terms of the way that we use it. The conscious mind is where we analyze, it's where we think, it's where we make critical decisions, we plan, and even when we decide that we're actively going to worry, that's done with the conscious mind. But only about 5% of the thoughts that we have on any given day actually come from the conscious mind. The other 95% of those thoughts are the thoughts that we don't see, the ones that are below the water, right? And they are controlled by our subconscious mind. So I want you to think about the subconscious mind from this point forward as the brain's operating system. And the programs that run that operating system are called our core beliefs. So the subconscious mind is the operating system, runs on the programs called our core beliefs. Now, we all have these learned programs, these core beliefs in our lives that are running in the background, and whether we know it or not, they're controlling everything. They control how we see ourselves, how we interact with others, what we believe about God, and everything else. These beliefs are the very thing that are going to cause you to see yourself as a victim, where life just happens to you and you feel like you don't have any active role in your own destiny, or they're the beliefs that can allow you to see yourself as you were created to be, as someone who absolutely has dominion over your own life and your own destiny, that you have the power to co-create your life with Christ. But because we're not aware of them, most of the time, these beliefs just take us on a path that is seemingly out of our control, and it's just not true. So tonight we're going to go deeper into the subconscious mind. We're going to go more in depth about these programs, these core beliefs that make up the subconscious mind, these programs that run in the background and that by definition run below the level of conscious thought. They are subconscious programs. Now, when King Solomon, again, probably the wisest man who ever lived, wrote Proverbs 23:7, as a man thinks, so is he, I believe that when he said these words, he was primarily talking about these subconscious beliefs that drive the way we think with our conscious mind. These are the things that hold all the power. These subconscious beliefs become what I call our truth. because they dictate what we perceive to be true in this world and the life that we live. The problem is that most of us have let our truth be based on the lies, opinions, and beliefs of others. And we never really truly live by the truth, the Spirit of God, that God spark or the seed of Christ that also lives in our subconscious mind. And as Doug said, it's just been tamped down and covered over. It is the truth that beckons us to the life that God intended for every one of us to live. And that's why myself and Doug are so passionate about this topic. The mind is where the true power is realized or not realized. This is where our true identity lives. Most of us just don't realize it because we have all of these self-limiting core beliefs covering up that God spark. And then we just live accordingly. I can tell you that for me, for 50 plus years on this planet, I let my truth be bigger than the truth. And I would read that all things are possible through Christ. But I just knew that that wasn't possible for me. That wasn't for me. That might have been for other Christians, but it definitely wasn't for me. Because every day of my life, I felt less than. I felt broken. I just knew I was worthless. The irony of hearing that all things are possible and having that life-giving statement condemn me even further. So our truth limits how much of the truth ends up being true for our lives. And this is, in my opinion, why Christ came, to set us free from our truth, to know the truth, and to experience the amazing lives that God intended for us. So I'm going to just cover a few things that I think are kind of interesting facts about the subconscious mind. And if the subconscious mind is the home of our subconscious beliefs that end up being our self-limiting truths, then I think it makes sense just to learn a little bit more about this thing that is actually running our life. And so I'm not going to go over all these. I'm just going to cover 3 or 4 of them. And number 1, the subconscious mind records everything. And I mean everything from the moment we're born. And actually, it starts when you're in the womb. If the mother is under stress and releasing stress chemicals and those feelings, that goes straight to us when we're in the womb. And we begin to record it even then. So, but once we're born, everything that has ever come through our 5 senses has been recorded. And it's in there somewhere influencing our life. And we'll talk more about how this works and how this affects us in a few minutes. Number 2, the subconscious mind is large and in charge 95% of the time. And it runs on everything that it has been recording since our birth. Number 3, it has nearly unlimited ability, which kind of makes sense since it's the God spark. It's where we are eternal, right? It's where we are infinite. The subconscious mind can literally process 1 trillion bits of data at once. We can't even comprehend that. It's easily 1 million times more powerful than the conscious mind. To me, it's completely inconceivable, those numbers. I don't even know what that means. I just know they're big numbers. What I do know is that this is why it can run or ruin our life if we don't get control of our subconscious mind. And perhaps most importantly, number 4, it takes everything, and I mean everything literally. It cannot take a joke at all, and it does not understand the words don't and can't, and this is super important. This means you must absolutely govern your words and your thoughts very literally and take it very seriously. And even though you may not mean it with your conscious mind, your subconscious mind does not know it, right? So first of all, I wouldn't joke about being sick. And this is, for me, I've always been very loose with my words. And the more that I learn, the more I understand, I have to take account for my words. And when we say that we're going to give an accounting for all the words and thoughts we ever had, it's not about punishment. It's about what these words do to our lives right here and right now, right? So avoid saying things like, well, Alzheimer's just runs in my family. I hope I don't get that. Or when you forget something, or maybe you joke, oh, it must be my early onset Alzheimer's kicking in. Please, the subconscious mind seriously cannot take a joke. and it's going to filter out all the don'ts that you say and just see it as true. Or if you're saying something like that, and it will just see it as true, and it will act accordingly. Second, I want you to think about, avoid talking about the things that you don't want. And this is a big one. The subconscious mind ignores the words don't, and it says, oh, well, that must be what Rich wants, so let's go ahead and give it to him. So instead of saying I'm not afraid, now I say I am courageous. I'm always going to try to verbalize in the positive. And it can be a struggle because I've conditioned one way in my life, but now I catch myself. And I think this is really good practice for our lives in general, because I, like so many of you, I lived my life not really knowing what I wanted. If you asked me to write down what I wanted, I really couldn't tell you. So I ended up living life by reacting to the things that happened. And then I would say, oh, no, I don't want that. Not realizing the subconscious mind would ignore the word don't and end up giving me the very thing that I wanted, that I didn't want, rather, because it just doesn't recognize the word don't. So be thoughtful about what you do want. Take time to write out what you want and what you want that life vision to be in the positive, and then begin couching your thoughts and words to reflect what you actually do want. And then you can be in alignment with your subconscious mind and begin reprogramming it. And finally, I'm going to say this, and this was very difficult for me because this is the way that I was conditioned from being a little guy. Avoid saying self-deprecating things. Just don't say them. And this was really hard for me. I had a hard time believing or saying anything nice about myself. I felt badly. I felt like I was being arrogant if I did that. And I was constantly self-sabotaging, thinking that I was being humble. And if you take nothing else away from this today, take away this. God does not view your self-deprecation as humility. He made you. He thinks you're wonderful. That's humility, is recognizing how wonderful you are and giving grace and our gratitude for that. So we're going to talk another time about how all of this works neurologically and the mechanics of all of it. But for now, just trust me when I say it. It's so, so important to take every thought and every word captive, because it actually does matter.
Yeah. Hey, Rich, along those lines, it's just amazing how beautifully and wonderfully we're made. I mean, the very fact that God has designed us in this specific way, and then he encourages us to hold every thought captive. He tells us to think upon those things that are lovely and pure and kind. And then he tells us who we are. In Ephesians 1, he says that we're his bride. We've been blessed and loved and chosen from the foundation of the world. So he's done everything to build us up and to show us who we actually really are. And when our subconscious believes that, we become powerful. We become a co-creator with him. So it's just amazing how God designed it that way, yet we have turned it on its head. So it's now negative instead of a positive thing. So just think about those thoughts, and what Rich shared is it's specifically designed this way, and that's the way God designed it. It's for our benefit, but we are using it for our detriment.
I would say that religion has made it something that it's not, right? Yes. When you view this through the lens of love, you begin to see how all of these things are absolutely for us and not against us, and that we're not being, like waiting for some bad word to come out or some bad thought. It comes against us. So all of these things are the way to lead and live our best lives. And it's the way God created it. So as a final area of review, last week we discussed how our thoughts create our reality, and you see that on the right-hand side of the screen. So if you remember, we have 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. 90% of them are the same as yesterday. These thoughts over the short term lead to our attitudes, which in the longer term become our beliefs. Our beliefs form our perceptions of the world around us. And then the perceptions become the lens through which we look at life and how we interpret everything that we encounter and experience through the 5 lenses. The way we think, the way we talk, and the way we act, our personality, is based on how we perceive these experiences through the 5 senses, thereby creating our own personal reality. So if you think those 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, and 90 to 95% of them are the same as yesterday, but if only 5% of those thoughts come from the conscious mind, then the 95% of the thoughts that create our attitudes, that become our beliefs, that drive our perceptions, that ultimately create our reality are the subconscious core beliefs that we didn't even know that we were having. This week, I want to discuss that thing that is the creator and influencer of those 60 to 70,000 thoughts that we have every day. So as you see at the top of all of that chain of events is our subconscious belief system. So if we want to change our reality, we do have to change our thoughts. But first, we have to change the programming that creates those thoughts. So the real task is to change the programming, our subconscious belief system that gave rise to those thoughts from the beginning. This programming, our core beliefs, that is the subconscious mind. So this evening, we're going to take just a bit of a deeper dive and understanding what are beliefs and what role did they really play in our life, and then how did we get those beliefs anyway? And again, as I said, the next time we're together, we'll take a look at how to change those beliefs that just don't serve us. So tonight is really about creating awareness of these subconscious belief systems that drive everything that we do. So beliefs, they're much deeper. It's much deeper than our thoughts and our ideas, our interpretations, or even our convictions. I want you to think of beliefs as the essential building blocks of the human experience. They are the internal infrastructure of who we are, how we show up in life, and ultimately how we interact with the world. Beliefs are the construction material that we use to build our thoughts, to build our experiences and our perceptions, and even our emotions. That's what beliefs are. These beliefs, they're the things that actually create and shape our experiences. And I want you to think of them as these tiny reality creation machines. Once created, these beliefs continue to operate in the background of your mind for the rest of your life until they're consciously eliminated. And we have thousands of these beliefs. And I wrote the word, as you see there on the screen, limiting. Because by definition, beliefs are limiting. When we define a belief, we're saying that that we believe one thing, but not another thing. So in effect, we're limiting what we believe in. And I don't think that's a bad thing. It just is a thing. The problem is that most of us suffer from the kind of limiting beliefs that actually keep us from experiencing the fullness of the life that God intended for us to live. I want you to think about these beliefs and that they operate like lenses in the front of your eyes, like glasses that you're wearing. They're shaping your experience of life and the world around you. And this is the part that I really want you to take note of. These beliefs filter out aspects of the world that don't agree with your beliefs. And they filter in the aspects of the world that do agree with our beliefs. Thus, our beliefs are always self-verifying. If there's an aspect of the world that doesn't agree with your beliefs, you're not even going to be allowed to perceive of that stuff. You won't even see it. Out of the trillions of bits of data that are there, your conscious mind is only going to begin to perceive those things that are in accordance with your beliefs. That's why 10 people can look at the same event and see 10 completely different things, because their belief systems are acting like that lens that filter out the stuff that they don't agree with. They just don't know it. So ultimately, we all have these two sets of beliefs. This is pretty foundational for me. When I read this and I thought about it, it's just so true. We have conscious beliefs and subconscious beliefs. The conscious beliefs are those things that you think you believe, whereas subconscious beliefs are what you really believe. I want you to think about this. Have you ever had a time where you thought you should think that you should think or do one thing, but you found yourself doing something completely different? So you were trying to act out of that which you thought you believed or thought you should believe. But then what you really believed in your subconscious mind took over and completely sabotaged everything that you were doing. So I think about when Paul said it in Romans 7:19. He said, "For I do not do the good I want to do, but the evil I do or do not want to do, this I keep on doing." And I remember thinking, okay, bro, this is my get out of jail free card. I mean, like if Paul has that problem and he says, "Look, man, I don't want to do this, but I keep doing it, so there's nothing I can do." If he said that, then I got to pass. I just kind of shrug my shoulders like, "Hey, I don't want to do it, bro." But Paul said it. I just don't know why I'm doing it. Right? These subconscious beliefs are the engine for this very verse. This is the reason that you do the things that you don't want to do, because you're acting in accordance with what your beliefs truly are anyway. So whether it's in the concept of, the confines or in the construct of a religion, or if we're trying a new diet, a new workout regimen, or if we're just trying to change our life in some way, anything that you want to do or know that you should do, but at the end of the day, what you really believe doesn't support that. And then you end up finding yourself back in the same old patterns. So you have these subconscious beliefs that are what you really believe, and those are the things that are running the show.
Yeah, the beauty, the verse you quoted, Romans 7, Romans 8:1 is one of my favorite verses. "There is therefore now no condemnation to those who are in Christ, who do not walk according to the flesh, the conscious mind, but according to the Spirit, the subconscious mind." Because what ends up happening is you know the truth, you know how you should be living. Religion has told you got to do these things, and God has provided all your needs, but your needs aren't being met. So then you start condemning yourself because, gosh, why can't I figure this out? And I just need to have more faith. All right, I'll go to church more, I'll pray more, I'll tithe more. And you just keep heaping this upon you. But that's not it at all. It goes down to what you really believe, the subconscious mind. So this is why this is so important, is I know, because I was there condemning myself for not doing enough for God, not believing enough or strong enough. There's always more that you can do. Well, guess what? The thing that you need to do is understand where those beliefs are really coming from, the subconscious mind.
That's right. Absolutely right. I think most of the time, most of us go through life completely unaware of these subconscious core beliefs and the fact that they are literally dictating every aspect of our existence. Your subconscious beliefs, they are the primary determining factor in everything that you're feeling, the stuff you usually think, the attitudes that you have towards your life and your circumstances. And Doug, when 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, giving me the 10 truths, circumstances don't matter, only state of being matters, and that's why I always wanted to punch you right in the throat, was because this did not align with my subconscious core beliefs at all. Right? My attitude was horrible. I felt like I was living in victimhood because that aligned with my beliefs of what I knew to be true, my truth, just not the truth. So these beliefs also, they control how you react to people, where you tend to place your attention, right? Where your attention goes, your energy flows. And we're not usually aware of this, but the subtle signals you unconsciously and subconsciously put out to others, all of those thoughts, they're energy. They exist on a certain frequency, a certain vibrational frequency. And that's a whole 45-minute discussion to itself. But just realize that when people are reacting to you, or when you're reacting to someone and you can tell there's something not quite right, it's not the conscious mind that's sensing that. It is the subconscious mind sensing the subconscious mind. And that's what you're trying to come to grips with when you're meeting someone and you're in someone's general area. That's what you're feeling. Right? And so I would say that, for me, for the majority of my life, I never attributed what I was thinking or feeling to my set of beliefs. And to be honest, I never knew why I was feeling or thinking the things that didn't serve me. I just felt broken and worthless. That was my life. And this in turn affected my overall attitudes towards myself and others. And this is ultimately why I was so daggone angry all the time at such a deep level, always boiling just under the surface and trying to use, Jesus and religion to keep the lid on. I was completely unaware that I was being controlled by my subconscious beliefs. And it was these same subconscious beliefs that also decided, what I would call my level of deservedness. Right? You can decide what you want with the conscious mind, but it is your subconscious mind, your heart, that determines your worthiness, whether or not you truly believe that you deserve something. If your deepest belief in this life is that you don't really deserve something like happy relationships, financial freedom, healthy or healed bodies, or even love, then you can say you want it, but it ain't coming. It's not going to happen. Your beliefs, remember, they're going to filter out the aspects of the world that you don't agree with in your beliefs. So if you have these deep feelings of unworthiness, then your mind is not only going to disagree with that desire, but it's going to go so far as to cause you to exert the behavior to ensure that you align your life with the belief of the program instead of the reality, instead of the truth. I mean, in other words, we will self-sabotage to keep the program of our core beliefs true. So it doesn't really matter what you see that you might want with the conscious mind. Your deepest beliefs will win the day, and you're going to end up like me doing a bunch of dumb stuff for decades and not even know why you're doing them, and then getting upset with yourself because you don't even know why you're doing the things you don't want to do. So, again, these are our beliefs. Now, hopefully you understand why these things are so important and the role that they play in the life that we live. So the next question is, well, how do we get these beliefs anyway? So when I think about this, tonight I'm just going to touch on three of them because I don't want to go too long. And we're just going to talk about three of the main ways that we get our core beliefs, or that subconscious belief systems. And it's not an exhaustive list. It's just trying to create awareness. And you're going to keep hearing me say this. This is the problem. They're subconscious. We're not aware. I just want to drive the discussion around these core belief systems, and for better or for worse, that have been running or ruining our lives. And the three that I'm going to talk about this evening, just very quickly, are early programming, what I call indoctrination or observation, and then trauma. The goal of everything that we're going to talk about is just to create awareness. Ultimately, I want to be able to give you the courage, once you're aware, to be able to challenge your beliefs. And if you find that you have beliefs like I did, like Doug did, like Rashi has, beliefs that no longer serve our lives, we want to help you do the same thing that we did, to be able to change those beliefs and then live the life that God intended for you to live. So first we'll talk about early programming. For 400 years ago, the Jesuits said that if you give me a child until it's 7, then I will show you the man or the woman. The first 7 years of a person's life will help to define the rest of their lives. And so why is this? Why is 7 a very specific number? Why is that number the number? Well, when we measure children's brainwave activity, we find that from birth to about 7, we're in what we call theta brainwave state. And all you need to know is that's literally the state of hypnosis. Now, this doesn't mean that kids are walking around like little hypnotized zombies. That's not what that means. When we talk about hypnosis at a scientific level, we're talking about that state in which everything, and I mean everything, is written directly into the subconscious mind. Now remember, the subconscious mind is very literal. So if it sees it, hears it, or experiences it, then the subconscious mind accepts it as true. Unfortunately, or fortunately, we don't get our cognitive abilities until about 7 to 8 years old. That's when we begin to use our critical thinking brain to begin questioning things. But until then, there's just not the ability to decipher whether or not what we're hearing is true. We just accept it as truth. So that becomes our truth. So if you ever heard your whole childhood like I did, like I heard that I was ugly, I wouldn't matter, and I really wouldn't really ever amount to anything. I know that so many people have heard that. And even though today I understand that it was my mother who suffered her own terrible childhood trauma, She was simply projecting her own beliefs about herself onto me. But as a young boy, I just believed her. I became obsessed with trying to get good grades. I never had to be told to get a good grade. I was driven from the time I was in like kindergarten to get good grades, just so I could be approved, just so that my mother would tell me that she loved me. I just didn't understand why I was so driven, but now I do. But in later life, I became obsessed with achievement. No matter if it was in the Marines or in college or in the corporate world or on my own, just so I could feel some self-worth. Yet no matter what I achieved, I always felt like a fraud. And today I know that even though I was achieving a lot, what I was doing was not in alignment with my subconscious programming, with my core beliefs. What I didn't know is that I was always going to feel like a fraud until I challenged those beliefs and spoke truth to my truth. So maybe like you see on the screen here, maybe you heard things like I did also, like you don't deserve, whatever it may have been. I heard this regularly through the first 7 years of my life. I had to go back and think about it. It just became part of me, and it just became part of that. But as I went back and I was like, wow, that's all I was ever told. It's no wonder that when I fast forwarded to when I'm, in my 50s, that when I look at my behavior, what is it 95% of the time? And remember, 95% of our 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day come from that subconscious program. Therefore, 95% of my behavior is based on the program that I don't deserve. Well, that meant that, and I've done this, and Doug knows this, I would unconsciously and subconsciously sabotage myself. People would tell me all these great things about myself and what I should be doing and what I could be doing. But I didn't believe it. So I would sabotage myself to make sure that my life aligned with the program, with my mistaken identity. I always made the program true by adjusting my behavior to fit the program. So this is why you can read self-help books until you're absolutely blue in the face. You might change for a little while, but at the end of the day, nothing's going to change because you tried to change the result by doing something different to change who you are, but who you are didn't change. So none of what you're doing when you're trying to do these self-help things rings true or feels like you because it doesn't agree with the subconscious program. And ultimately, it just never works. So along with the early programming is something I'm going to call indoctrination. And it takes many different forms across all areas of our lives. We're just told what to believe. And when we're little, we've already set the standard in place that we're not going to question it. We just accept it as true. Even when we get our cognitive, sort of thinking abilities, we just never question it. And what we call learning is more like programming, or what I call indoctrination. It's a flow of constant pressure to shape us to fit into the world of other people. I'm going to say it again. It's a flow of constant pressure to shape us to fit into the world of other people. I don't care if it's at home, it's at school, it's at church. These beliefs, this programming, this indoctrination is poured in from every single direction. I want you to look at this for just a second. Just think about this for a second. I'm just going to use this one because I think it's germane to what we're all about. If your parents brought you to a church or a mosque or a synagogue and you were told what to believe about God, the world, and life itself, and as I was talking to Doug today, I was like, I think it's not just the church. It is the mosque. It is the synagogue. Everyone is indoctrinated into that set of beliefs, these limiting beliefs, which means that nothing else can be true. And that's what we're taught. So we learn to set the fence post and to segregate and separate ourselves from this indoctrination. We're told, what God is, what's true. I mean, you've heard, I have original sin and sinners go to hell. You got to follow these rules. This is what God wants. It's got to be God's will. Well, how do you know what God's will is? You're just expected to accept these religious beliefs on faith and never question them. And we learned very early on, I did, that questioning beliefs usually ended up in a backhand. Or that's at the best. At the very worst, it was just dangerous. You just didn't do it. And I think even when we're 7 years old, and we're older than that, we begin using that cognitive thinking skills, and we ask the dreaded question. And how many of you have asked it, right? Why is it that way? Well, for me, the answer was always, hello, because I said so. Or like, yo, bro, that's just the way it is. The truth is, they didn't know what they believed or why they believed it. Well, the obvious thing to do is, and the easiest thing to do is just indoctrinate people, just smack them over the head so they, into believing your beliefs, so that you never have to answer the question why for them or for yourself. And that's the way that it was. And I can't tell you how many times I ended up doing that to my own kids, because that's exactly what was modeled to me.
Yeah, and that's the teenage rebellion and even adulthood rebellion against what they were taught as a kid. They realize the fallacy of it because they don't see it displayed in their parents' life or even the lives of church members, whether it's the mosque, synagogue, or what have you. So they see the things aren't matching, so they're going to rebel. And that's why we see it, because we're not teaching them this.
That's right. So the final thing I want to talk about this evening is trauma. So the first was early programming. The second is indoctrination, which again continues throughout, whether at home, school, or church, or just the world around us. And this third thing is trauma. Beliefs can become strongly and deeply anchored through early childhood trauma. Whether the trauma is sudden and shocking, such as in punishment or injuries, or subtle and over a long period of time, like a parent who doesn't respond to a child's needs because they're an alcoholic or they're an addict or they're just in a bad marriage or they're just lost in their own little world. The consequences are so severe. Beliefs get deeply, deeply embedded. I want you to take a look at some of these trauma events that many of us have suffered. And some of them don't seem, that critical, but they become critical. So if you experience trauma as a child, any of these things, you look at them. I didn't get the love or the care that I needed. I was abandoned, I ignored, I felt left alone. If you suffer any kind of abuse at all, physical, emotional, sexual, whatever, if you lost a beloved family member and just you couldn't cope with it, or maybe you just experienced extensive and repeated pain. If you experienced trauma as a child, you tried to figure out what was happening and why it was happening. You tried to figure out what to do to stop it. In order to make sense of it, you ended up creating beliefs and strategies that enabled you to cope. And these beliefs become embedded, and they can haunt us and control us our whole lives at that subconscious level. It's so important to understand that young children, when we're young, we see our parents as creators. We're not capable of recognizing that our parents they're confused and dysfunctional or psychologically damaged people. We don't see that. Consequently, when we have this series of these bad experiences, as children, we just conclude, wait a minute, there must be something wrong with me, or I'm just not lovable. It can't be them. They're the creator. It must be me. This is why children, the natural tendency is to blame themselves when bad things happen. And this is so much of why we have negative self-esteem at that subconscious level. We just don't even understand it. Over your lifetime, you've accumulated tens of thousands of beliefs. And what I want to tell you, whether it's early programming or indoctrination or trauma, we all live with the weight of the collection of these beliefs. And again, I think for many of us, you're going to feel it physically. You may feel it in your shoulders or your face, or maybe just your attitude. Maybe you feel it throughout your whole body and you don't understand why. This is how sicknesses manifest. Because of these negative beliefs, constantly releasing these chemicals into our body. Now you see the world through these beliefs. Everything looks consistent. It kind of makes sense. You rarely question your fundamental beliefs. And we just don't do that, right? Because they're transparent to us. And what we say is, well, that's just the way life is. Or we just say, well, that's just how I am. I mean, how many times have you said that about yourself? So hopefully today, I've just been able to create just a tinge of some level of awareness for you about your beliefs, or what I call your truth. Not the truth, but your truth. From this awareness, what our hope is that you're going to become courageous enough to begin examining all of these beliefs. And it does take a lot of courage, because these beliefs are you. It's your identity. If you begin to challenge those things, all of a sudden you feel like somehow you're less than, you're unworthy, you're not who you thought you were. But you have to become aware of these beliefs. You have to examine them and challenge them, especially the ones that do not serve you. So when next we meet, we're going to talk about how to change these beliefs that don't serve us. The ultimate goal of all of this, the ultimate goal, is to ensure that your truth becomes more closely aligned with the truth. That truth that has been in you and in me since before we were born. That truth that we really need to get in touch with this. Because if we don't get in touch with the truth, we can never, ever live the life that God intended for us to live. We're going to live our truth. And it's going to be far short of the glory that God intended for us. So that's all I have for tonight, Doug.
No, that's fantastic. Just stepping back to the trauma part, actually, my parents got a divorce when I was 6. So it was right in that theta stage. And I just remember when my parents told me that, it was, it just blew my world apart. And since then, it was like, okay, I need to fix this, right? I didn't really blame myself, but I felt that was something that I needed to fix. So I need to be in control. So I have found throughout my life is, wanting to be that control freak and be in charge and try to control things so they don't break apart. So that's what I've had throughout my life. Now, fortunately, God has, renewed my mind and my thoughts around that. And now I kind of take that energy and I try to help other people, not to control them, but just to help them and give them guidance and support, which is kind of what I really wanted to do with my parents, is give them guidance and support. So anyways, I had a significant trauma when I was 6 growing up. So that's the effect it had on my life. The other statement about just looking forward to the next video and the next discussion, which hopefully will be in the next couple of weeks. The takeaway is just to be aware that you're aware. When you look at the reflection of life, which is really a mirror, it's a mirror which reflects back what you truly believe and think. When you see that mirror and you go, wow, why is that occurring in my life? Be aware that you are aware of that. And that is the first step in change and giving your power back. So Rich, anything you want to add to that, or?
No, I think that, the whole goal here is to give people the tools to begin. I mean, most of us I didn't have any idea where to start, because again, we just accepted that's just who I am. Mm-hmm. We don't realize there is a better way to be that's not based on some religiosity of, who religion says we should be. It's already who we are. Yes. And all of these beliefs have covered up who we are. When Christ came, he's not talking about religion. He's talking about freeing us from the religious bondage that doesn't allow us to understand who we are, the little Elohims that were meant to be fantastic creation machines to change the world around us and to live these fantastic lives. That's who we are. That's the truth. So the goal of all of this is to help you align your truth with the truth. That's it.
Amen. And thank God we have the truth. Imagine, millions of people, if not billions of people, thinking that this is all life has to offer and it's their truth and they just got to live with it. But thank God, God has demonstrated or given us the truth that no, we are Elohims. We are loved and blessed and given everything for life and godliness. So we just need to align ourselves with that. So Rich, looking forward to hearing that next series in the next few weeks. We'll keep our group posted as to when that will take place. Again, you can reach out to us through our Facebook, which is at the Hundredfold Journey. And on there, you can post questions. We'll have videos. We'll have these various challenges up on Facebook. So be sure to, if you haven't joined, reach out there. And again, there'll be a link below. Additionally, we have our website, thehundredfoldjourney.com. And in there, we also have all of this information, all of these resources, including these challenges, specific books, ebooks on the gratitude and identity, which is also a very good start on reprogramming the subconscious mind. And in fact, maybe between now and our next study, if you can go into thehundredfoldjourney.com, go into challenge section, and in there, there's an ebook. You can download the book of 21 Days of Identity and Gratitude, along with a worksheet, and just follow that along for the next 21 days. And it's a 21-day challenge, even though we're asking you to do it for 63 days, and we can talk about that later. But anyways, those resources are there for you to start you on this journey. So with that said, Rich, thanks again for your time, and we are out of time. So we will end this session now.
Sounds good. See you soon.
All right. Thanks so much.
All right. Bye-bye.